digest, right? Is that process and your thinking process the same? No, they are not. Somebody just is staying there said, shut up. So that word comes, the word, the sound process goes through many, it gets inside and, and then it communicates to and all that, then that shut up come to my mind, How do I digest it? I don't digest that with mixing it with acids and everything and, no. I think about it. I convert them to my thoughts. He was insulting me. I said, did you insult me? Did you say, shut up? Yeah, the thinking process is different. It's a rational exercise. It's a spiritual exercise. It's not a material exercise. So Young said, man is so made that his spirit may operate upon and influence his body, and his body is so made that it may operate upon his mind or spirit. They have inner influences, but they are never the same. For example, I can just swallow a capsule and I may go into sleep, and then I see elephants flying in the heavens and oxen flying from there, and then, so many things, and they all, what happened? A little chemical that I swallowed is influencing my mind. Or I could just keep on thinking about worries and keep on thinking about bitterness and about other people and what they have done under unforgiving spirit, and very soon then I will have ulcer in my stomach. I begin to, show that catching cold very fast. So many things I begin to show. So my spirit influences my body influences my spirit, but my spirit never becomes body and my body never becomes spirit. It only can influence. Why it can influence? Because the Creator has put them together in such a way. There is an interdependence, but they remain distinctly different. So the distinction between brain and mind implies a distinction about the whole order of things. The brain and mind. The doctor can operate upon the brain, he cannot operate upon the mind. He can never operate upon the mind, he can operate upon the brain. But how deeply he slices the brain, he can never find the mind. Yeah. He can operate upon my heart, but he can never find love there. Any feelings or emotions there. It's absolutely impossible. So the distinction between brain and mind, that is the matter and the spirit, it implies a distinction about the whole order of things. Matter exists and something other than the matter also exists. James Boswell was a theologian who said, we find in the created universe an important difference between beings which think and being which spatially extended, or spiritual beings and material beings. We have beings which think, and we have beings with spatial existence. You take, for example, the cow or the elephant, it only has spatial existence. As it grows, it takes more room. It takes more room. But man, as he grows, he thinks more. He thinks about many things. His thinking increases. His thinking increases far greater than the spatial existence of his body, The body grows, yes, 6 feet, 7 feet, 80 kilos, that's it. But how much your thought weigh? How much your thoughts weigh? 1,000 kilos? 10 tons? How much? Boy, Einstein sat down and thought. His thought ended in E is equal to mc squared. So that's his thinking. Newton sat down and thought. He came up with the basic laws of science. Faraday sat down and thought. So many people sat down and thought. How much their thoughts weigh? See? So even this day, you have thought many things. If there was a machine to weigh your thoughts, you will find that it outweighed your body by many, 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 many times. So they are, so different. That's what James Boswell said, a theologian of note. He said that the created universe is an important, we find in the created universe an important difference between beings which think and being which spatially extended, or spiritual beings and material beings. Spiritual beings and material beings. Now these Hinduism and few other religions, they say that God even can become a material being. Can't. God cannot become a material being because God is a spiritual being. In the body and the mind of man, we see integrated interaction between the spiritual thinking being and the materially extended being. There is an integrated reaction, but they remain distinctly different. Distinctly different. It is generally understood that this distinction between brain and the mind is intuitively obvious. Intuitively obvious. We intuitively are aware of the fact that I have a mind. When you are sick, you go to a doctor and you said, I got a headache. But when you go to a psychiatrist, for example, you won't be usually saying you have a headache, but you say that I have no peace of mind. I'm not sleeping these days. Doctor, I cannot think anything normal. I cannot think anything normal. The psychiatrist is not treating your body's problems, they are treating the mind's problem. But can they really treat the mind's problem? They can only treat the chemical imbalances in your mind. If your sleeplessness is due to, you have too much lithium in your body, or you are, some other chemical imbalances and all those things. Thyroid problem, for example, your hypothyroid problem or hyperthyroid problem, and so many, they're all chemical related problems. The psychiatrist can treat that. When the problem is not psychiatric, the patient will be sent to the psychologist. They deal with the mind. Can the psychologist treat? No, unless he is a Christian. He cannot. So finally, for all psychological problem related to the mind, you end up with a true, genuine Christian who will say that, I tell you why you have this problem. You are bitter against your mother, aren't you? Every moment you are angry against your mother, right? Right. Well, bitterness is a spiritual problem, not a material problem. The only way you can escape from it, you confess it. Go confess it before your mother and say that, Mother, I have been bitter against you. I want you to pardon me. I was wrong. Then every sin is committed not only against another person, but it's committed against God. So you come back to God and say, God, I am sorry. I need forgiveness. And they said forgiveness is possible only on the basis of the shed blood of Jesus Christ. You bring that person to Jesus. The problem is gone. The problem is gone. See? So we have the mind, we have the matter. They are interrelated. So sometimes, the psychiatrist can treat you because of some chemical imbalances. The body needs so many chemicals in certain percentage, and when they do not have it, then you have problem. You have problem. Your mind is not working. One aspect of your mind is not working. So science actually undermined the materialist position. The mind is not the brain. The brain track psychology has failed. It is known that of certain part of the brain, if certain part of the brain is damaged, the work of that part is taken over usually by other parts of the brain. Yes. But there is no exact correspondence between the mind and brain. The brain can be repaired in some ways. The body itself will. But your mind can be repaired only by God, the Creator. Yes. Sir John Eccles, ECCLES, he has written 3 large volumes on the subject brain and the mind. He has said, having a mind means one is conscious. And that consciousness is a mental event, not a material event. Having a mind means you are conscious. That's. Yes. Mind means three things, right? Your thinking capacity. That's what mind is. Yes. In Malayalam, we have a little better phrase for that. The teacher will ask the student, Manasilayo. What does that mean? Do you understand? Manasil. Did the intellectual part got it? And then, when you stand for the wedding, the preacher will ask, Manasundo. As there, it is talking about your volition, your decision making. But then when you go to the psychologist, Manasinu Sukhamilla. See that? There is the emotional part. So mind stands for your intellect thinking, your volition, decision making, and your feeling or your affection. So it's very interesting, mind. And none of the doctors can treat. You take the student to a doctor and say that the teacher says, doctor, this child cannot understand, Manasilavunilla. Can you give some medicine? Sorry. Intellect is created by God. Brahmi-yoga karikam. You can take some Brahmi and all that. I don't know whether it really helps anything or not, but anyway, Ayurveda is making a lot of money on that, Brahmi lehyam, this and that and all, you eat it. Probably it has, I don't know. And also the same thing, you can, if the husband says that the bridegroom or the bride says, Manasilla. What will you do? Take to a doctor and say that, this girl said Manasilla. Can you give a manasa? Doctor says, sorry, we cannot do anything. Yeah. Of course, the psychology takes says that manasana suhamilla. What they will do? They will find out whether this is because of some sin or something, Yes. They will investigate and ask all kinds of questions, and they will find out that, okay, you had aborted your baby, right? That's what causing the problem now. That's what causing the problem now. So you need forgiveness for it. Why don't you see a Christian counselor? But most of the secular psychologists are not going to say that. What they are going to say that, oh, it is nothing. That's a tissue. Just like you blow your nose, you just blown it out. That's it. Okay, doctor. These are the religious people who said that you have committed a sin. There is nothing called sin. Yeah. So doctors say all that, they come back. And they come back and they see their friend carrying a little baby who would have, and the same, if she didn't abort it, she would have the same. And then look at the baby and say, if I didn't do that, I also would have had it. So she has her baby coming in the night. So next day end up. You just cannot, doctor, play games. Her conscience is hurt because she has done a sin. It needs forgiveness. It needs forgiveness. So, we have to be very sincere about it. Very sincere about it. We just cannot silence it. Just cannot silence it. So, John Eccles was so right. Having a mind means one is conscious. And the consciousness is a mental event, not a material event. These two are distinct orders. The brain is in the material world and the mind is in the world of subjective experience, in the spiritual world. The mind operates in the spiritual world. C.S. Lewis has pointed out the fundamental error of the materialist and the naturalist. He said the naturalists have been engaged in thinking about nature. They have not attended to the fact that they were thinking. The moment one attends to this fact, they were thinking it is obvious that one's own thinking cannot be merely a natural event, and that therefore something other than nature exists. You're thinking. You immediately realize you're thinking. Oh, what is my thinking? It's not a digestive process. Thinking is not. You have so many systems. You have your, nervous system. You have your digestive system. You have your, urinary tract system, your sexual system. But thinking doesn't belong to any of those. So what system it belong to? Your thinking system. What does it mean then? Huh? Thinking is a very logical, very logical, aspect. But it is part of your being, but not part of your body. You can never say, my thinking is here now. Yeah, my thinking is coming slowly. Doctor, the thinking is over here. No. Where is your thinking? It's not in my brain. Where is it? It's my inner being. What you are thinking? Well, you are thinking about some thoughts. And thoughts are immaterial, right? You are thinking the smell of a flower. Is that thinking material or immaterial? You thought about a rose flower, you are smelling the rose flower in your thinking. There's no rose flower before you. Rose flower is only in your thinking. Is that a material thinking or a spiritual thinking? See? Yet it is now you are very real. Very real. You know why you are thinking about a rose flower? Because God thought about a rose flower before He created it. God thought about a rose flower. Where did God get the thinking? Self, not from anywhere else. So the first one to think about the rose was God. He saw it in the rose color because He only designed it, He only did it. So now we started thinking because we are created in the image of God. We are created in the image of God. That's why we think about hell, we think about heaven, we think about death, we think about birth, we think about sin, we think about love, we think about compassion, we think about forgiveness, we think about many things. Because all these things are thought by God. You cannot have any thought that God has not thought unless it is Satan thought, evil. Still it is thought by a spiritual being. Maybe that spiritual being influences you. Thoughts are never material. Sometimes you think your dog could think many things, yes. But do they really? I love dogs, but I have never seen a thinking dog. I have seen smelling dogs, but not thinking dogs.
But they also do some intelligence.
Well, how will you define intelligence? Intelligence I define solid thinking, logical thinking, and logical application, and calling back to memory what has been thought. Dogs don't have anything. It can never think logically. Never think logically. Or you give a small algebra problem to the dog. Or a geometrical problem, Pythagoras theory, It cannot. It has instinct that can be exploited. Every creature is created with a natural something, instinct, we call. That instinct can be exploited. Parrots have the instinct of reproducing sounds that can be exploited. Dogs have the instinct of smell that can be exploited. Cats have the instinct of a place. The cats never understand who the owner is. The owner leaves away, but the cat remains in the same place. It's place oriented. Dog smell oriented. You leave, even go many miles away, the dog will come there. It will swim across the river and it will reach there. See, that's every creature has that creaturely instinct. That's all what it is. But man, he doesn't work on instincts. He doesn't work on instinct. He thinks logically. Thinks logically. Propositionally. He can solve problems. So these materialists, they have not attended to the fact that, we are thinking. The moment one attends to this fact that they were thinking, it is obvious that one's own thinking cannot be merely a natural event, and that therefore something other than nature exists. The supernatural is not remote and abstruse. It is a matter of daily and hourly experience, and intimate as breathing. How true. The supernatural, it's real, it's there. In any given time, how many times we think something about supernatural? Even the person who denies God, he is thinking about supernatural. The theists say there is God. The atheists say there is no God. What is he thinking about? The agnostics say we cannot know God. What is he thinking about? The hedonists say that we wish there was no God. What is he thinking about? Everybody is thinking. You cannot stop thinking about God. Either a negative thought or a positive thought, but it's thought about God. It's a thought about God, and you have it too. This is a fact. There is no use in denying these facts. It's just plain facts, plain facts. Supernaturalism is unavoidable. How can nature include mind as an integral part unless it is grounded in mind? How can nature include mind as an integral part unless it is grounded in mind? Mind is an integral part of our being, and yet it has none of the characteristics of the matter. The mind has no dimensions, it doesn't need any space. The mind does not necessarily undergo even entropy. No. The thinking of my father before his dying were as logical and as good as it was any time. Yes. Our thinking never get old. Thinking never get old. Whatever you think, it's fresh. It's thought. Your cells get old. Even your brain cells, they get degenerated. But our thinking never. It get degenerated because we start thinking about evil things. Evil things. That's the way it degenerates. We try to think thoughts that God doesn't like. So the mind has no characteristics of the matter. This integration is possible only if there is a supernatural to integrate it. So the belief in ultimate mind is the only rational option. If a person does not believe in an absolute mind, he's not rational, he's not thinking rationally. Because in the beginning was matter, everything is matter, then matter does not include thinking. So you have to say where the thinking has come from. How can you think? How can the matter think? A kilo of flesh cannot think. Only mind can think. Mind is not matter. It is not made by matter. It has no characteristic of matter. It's entirely different. So where the mind has come from? Where the conscience has come from? Where the God consciousness has come from? Where the feeling of guilt has come from? Now all these things, matter doesn't have any of those things. Where the sense of love has come from? Where the sense of right and wrong has come from? No answer. No answer. It all has to come from an ultimate spirit. That's what the Bible says. God made man with the matter, the material things, his body, and then breathed into him. And then the statement, and man has become a living thing. Yes. It really means a living soul. That's what I said. Living souls, actually plural. And man has become living souls. Means it has a spiritual aspect and a soulish aspect. As a mind and spirit, both. It came from the Creator only. In the beginning God created heaven and earth, that's matter. So God created the body with the matter. The matter He first created. He used. But the mind, actually He did not create. The mind He breathed. It's also an act of creation in a sense, but it is not, like the others. So He breathed into man and gave him. So that combination, exists as a unique existence. Only God can make the matter and mind to coexist while the two are different. The two are so different and yet they operate simultaneously, harmoniously and all. And when they separate, death is reality. They say death is reality. But yet the spirit never dies. Only the body. Because the spirit came from God. See? So it cannot die. So it's marvelous, It's marvelous. Christians need or do acknowledge that God is more than a supernatural mind. The mental proof helps to establish the existence of God, but the God of rational proof alone is unworthy of worship. Only the Christian's God, the God of the Bible, is worthy of worship because He is more than a rational mind. He is a person, He is pure spirit, He has intellect, He has emotion, He has volition, omnipresence and omnipotence and all those things here. The simplicity of God. The simplicity of, what the simplicity of God means? God is indivisible part. Water is a compound, it's not simple. Even oxygen, you can divide that into, molecule can be divided into atom, and then the atom can be divided into electron, proton, and neutron, and all those things. And even then you can divide them to charges, positive charge, negative charge, and all these things. So they are not simple matters. A simple matter is that which you cannot divide. You divide it, it remains the same thing. You just take a piece of God, if that is possible, because He is not matter, you cannot. But hypothetically say that you go and take a little of God, that will be full God. That will be full God.
Any verses?
Any verse where He is full God.
This doctrine,
Yeah, the simplicity of God there are. So God is spirit, for example. When Jesus said God is spirit, it's an indivisible matter. You cannot. God is not body. Body can be divided. Spirit cannot be divided. Indivisible matter.
So that way even our spirit is indivisible.
Yeah, our spirit cannot be divided. Yes, that is because God, it's analogous to God. Yes. But our body can be divided. Hebrews 4:12 said the word of God is so powerful it will divide asunder. Yes. Yeah, the body and the spirit and the soul can be divided if you want. But neither the soul can be divided nor the spirit can be divided. They are simple elements. And they are simple because that's given by God from the essence of God, So every man has an amount of deity in him. That's a correct statement if you understand it correctly. Not saying that every man is God. Every man has an essence of deity in him, Man is man, not God. Because God had breathed. That's why we have God consciousness, we have the value of worship, we have the aesthetic value, You look at the for example, look at the cow. It eats grass, but you ever saw the cow as it was greeting a beautiful flower, looks at it and smile. I had never even seen an artist making a cow smiling at a flower. But we people, we have the aesthetic value, they don't have the aesthetic value. The monkeys don't enjoy flowers, they climb on trees and they pluck flowers and fruits and they eat and destroy, but they never stop. It's some nice flower. No, they don't have aesthetic value. Only man has these aesthetic values. Because our God has aesthetic values. That's why God enjoys, God looks, God hears. He enjoys music, Our God enjoys music. Well, that's why even in the temple, how many pieces of music? Solomon had 4,000 piece orchestra. Think of that. How many Subin Mehta has? I don't know. How many others people have? These, Eh? The New York Philharmonic Orchestra, I don't know how many, 70 pieces or 80 pieces. That's what they have. The Berlin Orchestra is a big